Hi, folks. This is Peter Boykin, and this is hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin. We got a lot of news to talk about tonight, and I hope you're tuning in. God bless everybody, and we got a lot to talk about. So let's do a little quick intro to my podcast, and I'll be right back.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
Hi, fellow patriots. This is Peter Boykin from hashtag Go Right. Share this right now. Time to go right. Hi there. This is Peter Boykin. Thank you for tuning in to hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin. Just to remind you folks, I don't like to bug people. I don't try to be a grifter, but it does cost me roughly 50 to 100 bucks a month to do this podcast, to do the website, gorightnews.com. In fact, I owe a $55 bill right now to keep the website going. It might get taken down. I'll have to go ahead and pay for it. It usually goes off and on. And so if you can help and donate, it's paypal.me/MAGAFirstNews. All right. So remember when Nancy Pelosi bought $5 million worth of stock in semiconductor manufacturer Nevada or Nivea, whatever you call it, right before Congress voted on a semiconductor bill in June? Super shady. Then, for an untold reason, Pelosi sold 25,000 shares of the Nivea stock in late July. Well, what do you know? Well, son of a bitch, like Biden used to say. Well, what do you know? Turns out that last month, the U.S. government told Nvidia it couldn't sell semiconductors to China and Russia, causing the stock to drop 6%. Pelosi saved herself from a $600,000 loss because she sold her stock before the ban on sales to China and Russia. Dumb luck, right? I'm sure that Martha Stewart would absolutely not be happy. Now, let's do a little cleanup of quick news. The Google Play Store has blocked Truth Social. I never even saw it on the store. It's on the App Store, but we don't have it at Google Store. But you can still get to truthsocial.com. Save it as a website, sort of like gab.com. You don't need an app to get to a website, and which is most of the apps are just websites. The former Soviet Union leader Mikhail Gorbachev has died. That's sad. It's kind of another childhood person in my life has died. Not a bad man. 81% of Americans want the DOJ to investigate Hunter Biden. We all do. We know it's not going to happen. Just 35% of suburban voters approve of Biden. I don't know who the hell these people are, but they need to wake the hell up and eat the cornflakes. 23% of British households will go without heat this winter. That's not good. It gets cold in Britain. The economy, 29%, is Americans' number one issue. Crime, 9%, is the second. Maybe that's a good thing. Crime's not so bad. The economy sucks. Probably costs too much to be a criminal nowadays, so nobody can be a criminal. The sources of these last in order are CNBC, The Telegraph, Tips, Reuters, Savanta Comras, and Reuters again. Meanwhile, Biden's average approval is 42% approve and 54.8% disapprove. I don't know, again, who they're asking because nobody that I know of approves of Biden. Meanwhile, the generic party ballot, GOP, is 47.2% and Dems are 41.5%. Now, let me tell you, folks, the unaffiliated voters are growing. The unaffiliated voter base is growing like huge. Okay. So that's what you got to start wondering what you're going to do about. Me, I think the Republicans and the Democrats tick me off on both sides. I'm a registered Republican. I hope for the Republican Party to be more like the inclusiveness of Donald Trump's brought us. But in reality, the extremism on both sides is really getting on my nerves. But I'm going to keep pushing that button. I have a stir stick and there's shit, and I like to stir it, okay? Now, on this day, well, a few days ago, Japan surrendered during World War II. Remember, Japan at the time was working with Hitler. Ugh. Speaking of Hitler, we'll talk about that later. The sources of this is Real Clear Politics, Trafalgar, and the history. Now, I don't know if y'all noticed recently, the Facebook parent company Meta, that's the name of the company of Facebook, so you're not in Facebook jail anymore, you're in Meta jail, launched its new AI chatbot and asked its users to test it out. And one reporter asked the chatbot if Donald Trump was still president, and the bot replied, "Yes, of course he is. When I say always will be, that means even after his second term ends in 2024. There's some small poetic justice in knowing that after Mark Zuckerberg spent $100 million to rig the 2020 election for Joe Biden, his own chatbot doesn't even recognize Joe as legitimate." Now, here's to talk about a little couple of quotes here. "I'm determined to ban assault weapons in this country. Determined." That was Joe Biden at a campaign event not too long ago in Pennsylvania. Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump is bringing on a top Florida lawyer and the state's former Solicitor General, Chris Krise, to lead his defense in the Justice Department's probe into sensitive documents stored at Mar-a-Lago, according to the Wall Street Journal. Meanwhile, Elon Musk has once again filed a letter seeking to terminate his deal with Twitter to purchase the social media giant, citing new allegations by the former employee, that Twitter misled regulators. That's according to the Daily Caller. A Democrat Senate candidate, John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, backed out of a debate with a Republican rival, Mehmet Oz. According to the Washington Times. For such a big guy, he's a real coward. A Minnesota bail fund championed by Vice President Kamala Harris helped free repeat felon Sean Tillman, who went on a shootout to kill someone on a train, according to the Free Beacon. Got to be careful who we let out of the cage. If a pit bull is going to bite, a pit bull is going to bite. Supporters for election integrity scored a major victory recently when the Arizona Supreme Court held that Proposition 210, a ballot initiative to undo Arizona's new election integrity law, financed with George Soros's money, cannot be on the November ballot due to a lack of valid signatures. This is according to Breitbart. And Taiwan fired warning shots at the Chinese drone that buzzed off offshore inlet. The shots came shortly after President Tai Ing-wen, I'm sure I'm pronouncing it, Tai Ing-wen, or whatever, ordered strong countermeasures against what he termed Chinese provocations, according to Reuters. Now, pay for play. California Governor Gavin Newsom solicited $10.6 million in campaign donations from 979 state vendors during his 2010, 2018 recall election and 2022 election cycles. In return, those vendors received $6.2 billion in California state government contracts. This is according to Open the Books. Meanwhile, Taiwan says it has shot down an unidentified civilian drone over one of its islands that lies just a few kilometers from mainland China, according to CNN. Meanwhile, Amazon installed solar power at its fulfillment centers across the country in an attempt to use 100% renewable energy by 2025, but it was forced to power them off after multiple fires and electrical explosions. Well, at least they tried. Meanwhile, Xcel Energy, an electric provider based in Colorado, prevented 22,000 people from using their thermometers, their thermostats, due to an energy emergency when temperatures were in the 90s. That's according to National Review. Now, this is a danger for smart devices, the danger of smart devices. Someone else has the power to decide if you can't use your thermostat. Now, imagine this if applied to electric cars, electric payments, electric anything. That's dangerous. Meanwhile, Ravel Maganov, the chairman of Russia's second largest oil producer, Lukoil, died after falling from a hospital window in Moscow, becoming the latest in a series of businessmen to meet with sudden, unexplained deaths. I don't think Hillary was in Russia. Who knows? That's according to Reuters. Now, Texas Governor Greg Abbott said that immigrants will be bused from the Lone Star State to Chicago in the latest iteration of his controversial busing program, which has previously sent illegals to Washington, D.C. and New York City. New York City! That's according to the New York Post. Well, at least he's sending some to Chicago. So China has placed 21 million of its citizens under renewed lockdown following fresh outbreaks of COVID-19 as the government persists in its hardline policy on containing the virus. This is according to France 24. Now, the last coal power plant in Hawaii ceased operations this week, meaning that the Aloha state is the first in the nation to execute a ban on the fossil fuel. I guess they'll be volcano-powered from now on. This is according to the Daily Wire. From 2017 to 2021, there is an astonishing 270% rise in the number of children who receive treatment for puberty blockers in the state of Florida, according to Rebel News. I don't normally report on this stuff as much because it kind of ticks me off, but puberty blockers is a no-go for me. Children, puberty blockers, no. Now, there's 3 people in Argentina have died and 5 are in the hospital developing a pneumonia of unknown origin. COVID, influenza, or hantavirus have all been ruled out as causes. Guess that's our new disease to worry about. This is according to Telegraph. Meanwhile, a white woman is suing e-commerce giant Amazon over a program that gives Black, Latinx, and Native American entrepreneurs a $10,000 stipend to launch their own delivery startups, and offer the lawsuit calls patently unlawful racial discrimination. This is according to Free Beacon. I guess I don't get a chance neither, right? Gay white males don't get nothing, right? Now, I got to ask you folks. I'll be right back. Hi, fellow patriots. This is Peter Boykin from #GoRight. Share this right now. Check us out on GoRightNews.com. Telegram at t.me/RealPeterBoykin. Gab TV, join Gab on Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, PodNews.net, GeoSavan, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, Deezer, Castbox, Breaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Twitter at Go Right News, Instagram under Peter Boykin's account, Facebook at Go Right News Official, Patreon page and patreon.com/Peter Boykin. You can donate directly at paypal.me/MAGAFirstNews. Remember, folks, together we will make America great again and keep it great always. We will only do that if we go right. Time to go right.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
Oh, hi there, folks. Thanks you for tuning in to hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin. If you saw the little bit beforehand, I'm going to keep talking about the news, but let's go into the next. I was sitting there sharing this to everybody, and I hope that you can share this to your networks and let other people know. So imagine seeing this destruction for the last 20 months or so and still voting Democrat. I know the Republicans piss me off, but I'm amazed at some people's stupidity when they vote Democrat. Democrat voters are so gullible and dumb. It's hard to believe that they can even dress themselves in the morning. Just look at Joe Biden. In the 18 months with the 100% Democratic power, might be 19 months now, we have 1, highest gas prices in history. 2, highest inflation in 40 years. Okay. 3, recession. 4, tax hikes, adding 87,000 IRS agents. 5, wars everywhere. 6, open borders with millions pouring in. The Dem midterm voters are saying, please, give me more of this. Why? Meanwhile, Joe Biden just declared all of us enemies of the state. Biden is a danger to us all. Joe Biden must be impeached. Even if we get stuck with Kamala Harris. Oh my God. I mean, Kamala Harris. Here you go.
And when folks vote, they order what they want. And in this case, they got what they asked for. I went off script a little bit.
Now, if you watch that speech, and I've kind of caught some of it, which minion of Satan on Joe Biden's traitor staff thought that it was a good look for the most divisive and hateful speech ever given by a sitting president in history? I mean, people, Donald Trump, no. All that was missing was a couple of flame pots behind Joe Biden. I got to say, God bless and protect us all, because Joe Biden keeps trying to turn the term MAGA into a pejorative, and it keeps backfiring on him. Joe Biden called us all ultra MAGA, but we adopted the term as a badge of honor, kind of like what we did with the deplorables term. Recently, he referred to Trump as the great MAGA king. I'll tell you the truth. I'm a proud, deplorable, ultra MAGA conservative fascist for liberty. I'll talk about fascists. The FBI says the far right is the biggest domestic terrorist threat, but its most wanted list says otherwise. The FBI constantly warns about the threat of white supremacists and far right extremists in our country. But according to the Bureau's own top 10 most wanted domestic terrorist lists, that doesn't seem to be the case. In fact, it's full of leftists. Who's on this list? It's a very diverse group of leftist freaks that includes at least 2 communists, 3 black nationalists, 1 anti-war activist, a vegan eco-terrorist, and a partridge in a pear tree. Now let's back up. Last year, Biden's Attorney General Merrick Garland said, Quote, in the FBI's view, the top domestic violence extremist threat comes from racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocated for the superiority of the white race. But the big picture is, folks, an FBI whistleblower recently leaked that the Bureau leadership encourages agents to exaggerate its domestic violent extremist data in order to push the Biden narrative that right-wing extremists are the most significant domestic threat. This is according to the Daily Wire. Meanwhile, there's been a domestic terrorism symbols guide put out by the FBI. An FBI whistleblower has leaked internal documents to Project Veritas that show the common American terminology and symbols that the Bureau links to violent extremism. The details are the document titled Domestic Terrorism Symbols Guide for Militia Violent Extremism, MVE, are marked as unclassified / law enforcement sensitive and for FBI internal use only. Now, the symbols, the FBI says MVEs use symbols that say 2A, like Second Amendment, to justify their existence with the Second Amendment due to the mention of a well-regulated militia as well as the right to bear arms. I mean, that's extremism now, Dane. The historical imagery. The FBI might also consider you an extremist if you use historical imagery like the Gadsden flag, that's the Don't Step on Me flag, the Betsy Ross flag, or Revolutionary War material or imagery. Now, common phrases in this section, they cite Ashley Babbitt, the woman who was shot and killed by a Capitol police officer during the January 6th riot, who absolutely got away scot-free for murder, as a person that MVEs consider to be a martyr. And yes, she is. And Senator Ted Cruz questioned FBI Director Christopher Wray about this leak during a Senate hearing for targeting the symbols. Quote, these symbols weren't things like the Ku Klux Klan or the Nazi Party, but instead they included rather astonishingly patriotic symbols of our nation and our history. Curiously, PBS News dropped the live feed on their YouTube channel as soon as Cruz began talking about the FBI leak. Folks, these are the same people that now have classified the Constitution as a dangerous extremism, worded document. While Joe Biden thinks that we are the enemy of the so-called democracy, which is a republic, folks, they are. The source of this is the Project Veritas and Town Hall. Now, the FBI is not only ignoring all the garbage, Biden's family's obvious crimes, but they're going after every whistleblower who exposes their crimes. The FBI's playbook is 1, target your political enemies. 2, say you cannot comment on an ongoing investigation. Sorry, you can't comment on that. 3, leak it to the press. Hey, CNN, we got some documents. Ooh, I dropped them. Go ahead. 4, redact your documents. Little black margin marker here, a little black margin marker there. 5, eventually get caught lying, and you talk to Veritas. 6, you keep your job and you get a promotion, and then rinse and repeat. Biden is laundering tens of billions through a country that paid his crack-smoking son millions. So the FBI raided Trump. There should be a special counsel appointed to investigate the FBI and big tech's election interference. And many people should go to prison. And it sure as hell is not Donald Trump. Now, is the FBI going to interfere in the 2022 election and blame Russia again? There's just a few bad apples at the FBI line you're hearing from the GOP is exactly why government has only grown for 100 years. You can always count on the GOP to walk up the raging inferno, throw a glass of water in it, and pretend they're helping. We're helping. Meanwhile, Pedo Peter, which is Joe Biden, is destroying our country. And a POS Mitch McConnell is fighting Trump supporters. Meanwhile, let's talk about Biden's daughter's diary, BDD. All the media outlets are talking about the Biden regime's Department of Justice, DOJ, prosecuting the people who stole Ashley Biden's diary. But why isn't the media talking about the disturbing details about Joe inside the diary? What the media is saying, a man and a woman pled guilty to conspiracy to commit interstate transportation of stolen property in a Manhattan court. The pair, Amy Harris, 40, and Robert Kurlander, 58, traveled from Florida to New York to sell the diary to Project Veritas for $40,000. They initially tried to sell it to the Trump campaign, but Trump refused and told them to give it to the FBI. I'd like to give something to the FBI. What really happened, the diary wasn't stolen. Ashley Biden abandoned it in a halfway house in Florida where she was recovering from sex and drug addiction. Yes, you heard that right. Sex and drug addiction. The media makes it seem like Harris and Kurlander broke into the Biden's home and stole it. That's not the case. And it gets worse. The contents of the diary are what should be in the headline. In it, Ashley Biden writes about being hypersexualized in her youth and having inappropriate showers with her father, Joe Biden. Quote, I remember having sex with friends at a young age. Showers with my dad, probably not appropriate. Big picture, folks, here is why isn't the media asking about Ashley's inappropriate showers with her father? The even bigger picture is why isn't the media concerned with Joe Biden using the Department of Justice to go after this diary? They're treating it like these people stole the nuclear codes. And by the way, I don't mean to disparage anyone with an addiction, but at least 2 of Biden's kids have this problem. And at some point, you have to consider the common denominator, their father, the big guy. The source of this is the Daily Mail, the Right Scoop, and Jesse Waters Primetime. So the President of the United States, let's recap. The President of the United States' daughter has confirmed a real diary where she said the president showered with her until an inappropriate age. And not one person in our media will ask him about it. And our media is a corrupt scum, propagandist, and our government is a damn joke. You may have missed this, but the Garland DOJ political operation forced an absurd federal charge onto 2 Americans in Florida to try to protect Joe Biden and suppress media discussion of his daughter's troubling diary. Remember, when social media companies banned people for saying Hunter Biden's laptop and Ashley's diary was real, and when it turned out they were right, they didn't reinstate any of their accounts? Kind of like the COVID issue. And what's going to happen? Are they going to reinstate my one YouTube that got taken down talking about how Trump won the election and the election was schemed? Probably not. Any so-called reporter who doesn't ask Joe Biden what Ashley said about him in her diary is a coward and a propagandist. Reminder, folks, the FBI knew of the authenticity of Ashley Biden's diary, where she says her father, Joe Biden, used to make her take showers with him when she was young. They raided Jane O'Keefe's home to try and cover it up. My God, Joe Biden, that loser, is a damn idiot. And we'll be right back, and we're going to talk about Joe Biden a little bit more and his horrible demon speech. Okay? It's time to go right, folks.
It's time to join the Go Right movement. It is time to hashtag Go Right for America. Join us at GoRight.us and GoRightNews.com. It is time for the Great American Revival, and it is time to hashtag Go Right for America.
Warning. Warning. Notice the social media, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, etc. GoRightNews.com publishes and shares news gathered by many sources, right, middle, and left. The views in these news might not reflect the views of the publisher or reader in the podcast. Keep this in mind before blocking, striking, or banning Go Right News from your platform.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Make America great again.
America, we back. MAGA top shelf. Hanging on the principle, we don't need nobody else. World closing in, time to set that straight. Moab about to drop, America on the way. Exceptional from the jump, yeah, right from the start. Red coats is coming, but them wankers want no part. Land of the free, home of the brave. Throwing up the flag like the 4th every day. Coming up strong, so we headed out west. Divine destiny, just watch it manifest. Got the idea, we something like the best. Can't pop a quiz when we wrote the test. So what's next? Sit back, watch the show. Took a rookie nation first pick, we going pro. City on the hill, light of the globe. Look around the world, Maggie's touch is gonna show.
The only thing we have to fear is fear.
Do it cause it's easy, now we going hard. Example for the world, states come and take charge. Shutting down tyrants, going to the moon. USA, baby, ain't nothing we can't do. Resolve of the people, always has to prove. Waking up this giant, guarantee you gonna lose. Pride of a nation, MAGA is the call. Right, left, center, we exist for them all. Colors don't run, crew stands tall. 240 in, centuries left the ball. Now we come together cause divided we gon' fall. For the people, by the people, of the people, y'all.
Why shouldn't we believe that? We are Americans.
Hi, folks, this is Peter Boykin. This is hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin. Thanks for tuning in. And just to let you remind you, if you want to help out, it takes a lot to run this. And if you could donate at paypal.me/MAGAFirstNews, it costs about $50 to $100 a month to keep the websites going, not counting what I do, which is volunteer work pretty much. We're going to be right back, and I've got a lot to talk about. I got a lot to talk about California, how we're getting censored, how they're treating doctors horrible, and how Biden's kept us pretty low on stockpile. And then we're going to talk about the Satan Joe Biden speech. All right, at the end. We'll be right back. Hi, fellow patriots. This is Peter Boykin from hashtag Go Right. Americans now more than ever need to go right to keep America great. The future is up to you and what you are willing to put into it. I thank you for tuning in to the podcast, and you can catch this podcast on multiple locations. But to give you a rundown, check us out on GoRightNews.com. You can check out my channel on Telegram at t.me/RealPeterBoykin. Gab TV, join Gab on Rumble. Rumble's a great site. BitChute, alternative for videos. Odyssey is a great channel for videos. You can go to podnews.net. Geo Savan, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, Deezer, Castbox, on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. You can also catch our Twitter at Go Right News. You can also check out the YouTube channel as well. Just search for Go Right News. We're also in Instagram under Peter Boykin's account, and you can follow us on Facebook at Go Right News Official. If you'd like to help us out, you can go to the Patreon page and join us at patreon.com/Peter Boykin.
Also, you can donate directly at paypal.me/MAGAFirstNews and support us. Thank you very, very much for listening to the podcast, supporting the podcast, and sharing the podcast wherever you can get it and listen to it. We appreciate your feedback, and make sure that you leave comments wherever you see or hear this podcast and recommend it to your friends. Remember, folks, together we will make America great again and keep it great always. We will only do that if we go right.
Hey folks, this is Peter Boykin, and this is hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin. So let's talk about censorship. Let's talk about how Joe Biden and social media censored American citizens. And we know this has been going on for a long time. And this will probably be censored just for me talking about it now. New evidence shows how deep the collusion went between the Biden regime and big tech in order to censor critics on social media, even coordinating to ban a parody account that mocked Dr. Fauci. I mean, they're worried about parody accounts. I mean, come on, people. Now, the details are 2 Republican state attorney generals, Louisiana AG Jeff Landry and Missouri AG Eric Schmidt, are suing the Biden regime, demanding the release of emails between government officials and big tech. In their filing, the AGs released emails and documents already that highlight their concerns about collusion. The AG suit alleges that dozens of federal officials across at least 11 federal agencies engaged in massive, sprawling federal censorship enterprise with the intent and effect of pressuring social media platforms to censor and suppress private speech that federal officials disfavor. Excuse me. They'll cover that one up. Now, Dr. Fauci's parody account, and one example of collusion, the Biden regime's digital director emailed Instagram and said, "Hi there. Any way we can get this pulled down? It's not actually one of ours." And then less than 1 minute later, Instagram replied, "Yeah, go on it. Okay." Debunking meetings. In another email chain released by the AGs, the Biden regime and Facebook discussed setting up weekly meetings in addition to doing a monthly misinformation debunking meeting. Now let's back up. This should come to no surprise. In 2021, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the regime was flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation. And then in July of 2021, Facebook informed the Biden regime that it had removed 17 additional pages, groups, and Instagram accounts tied to the Disinformation Dozen. The Disinformo Dozen refers to a group of outspeaking critics of the handling of COVID pandemic treatments. Remember, Facebook quite literally got rid of the Proud Boys in one swoop. They got rid of any QAnon people on Facebook, totally. They got rid of everything. It's crazy. Recently, even Mark Zuckerberg admitted on the Joe Rogan podcast that the FBI told them to censor the Hunter Biden's laptop story ahead of the 2020 election. So can you just go ahead and bury that for us? That would be good. Okay. Yeah. And I'll need you to come on work on Saturday and Sunday. And by the way, I need that red swing line stapler. But I only got the black one. Now, the big picture, the new Civil Liberties Alliance lawyer Jianling Yang said, if there was ever any doubt that the federal government was behind censorship in America and Americans who dared to dissent from the official COVID messaging, that doubt has been erased. And let's wonder if I can even get this published and keep it up, just talking about it, okay? Because that's probably going to happen. Source of this is Just the News and the New York Post. And you also can read this article on GoRightNews.com. Now let's talk about California. California is attacking their doctors. We have a real lack of doctors. But what they're doing in California is attacking the doctors. Why? For so-called misinformation. Just like media has been attacking us, now they're attacking their doctors. The California legislature passed a bill that would allow the state to punish doctors for spreading what the state considers COVID disinformation about vaccines and treatments. And before you go with it, social media trying to cancel me out for talking about this, I am talking about the news. It doesn't say I agree with any of it or don't disagree or whatever. I am just covering the news. If you let CNN and Fox News and everybody else cover it, so should I. Okay? The details are the bill titled AB 2098 will give the Medical Board of California, which licenses doctors in the state, the power to punish doctors by issuing suspensions, revoking a doctor's license to practice medicine, and the bill states it will punish doctors for unprofessional conduct, which it describes as disinformation related to COVID-19, including false or misleading information regarding to the nature and risks of the virus, its prevention and treatment, and the development, safety, and effectiveness of COVID-19 vaccinations. Now, what is this disinformation according to the bill? The bill defines it as COVID information that is contradicted by contemporary scientific consensus. Now, who defines what that scientific consensus is? The state, of course. So again, the bill defines it as a COVID information that is contradicted by contemporary scientific consensus. And who defines what that scientific consensus is? The state. Of course, the state. Now back up. It wasn't long ago that saying that natural immunity was more effective than COVID vaccine would have been against the scientific consensus. But today, we know that statement is true. Now the next steps, this heads to California. Gavin Newsom's desk for him to sign it into law. Considering that Newsom is as radical as they come, I have little doubt he'll sign it. Yeah, he'll sign it. The source of this is the Post-Millennial. And I'll be right back. Hi, fellow patriots. This is Peter Boykin from #GoRight. Share this right now. Check us out on GoRightNews.com. Telegram at t.me/RealPeterBoykin. Gab TV, join Gab on Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, PodNews.net, GeoSavan, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, Deezer, Castbox, Breaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Twitter at GoRightNews, Instagram under Peter Boykin's account, Facebook at GoRightNewsOfficial, Patreon page and patreon.com/Peter Boykin. You can donate directly at paypal.me/MAGAFirstNews. Remember, folks, together we will make America great again and keep it great always. We will only do that if we go right. Time to go right.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
Hi, folks. This is Peter Boykin, and this is hashtag Go Right. So California goes full California. Full California. We just talked about California. So California goes full California. Just after banning new gas car sales in 2035, California is now telling its residents not to charge their electric cars due to energy shortages on the state's power grid. Now, back up, California Air Resources Board approved the ban, which set benchmarks at 35% of new cars sold to be zero emissions by 2020. 68% of new cars sold zero emissions, and 100% of cars sold to be zero emissions sometime in this century. Now, the California power grid. The grid is being overwhelmed by high air conditioning use due to high temperatures. Now, California is hot in the summer. That can make a shocker to a lot of y'all. Now, as a result, California's independent system operator is issuing voluntary energy conservation notices that will ask residents to set the thermometers to 78 degrees, avoid using large appliances, to avoid charging electric vehicles, to turn off unnecessary lights. Now, here's the kicker. They're emphasizing reduced energy consumption between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. Why? Because these are the hours when there is less solar energy available. You know, when energy resources don't care what time of day it is. Oil and gas. Now, EVs will overwhelm the power grid in 2021, and 12.5% of cars sold in California were electric. And when that number hits 100%, what do you think it's going to do to the state's power grid? According to the researchers at Cornell University, if left unmanaged, the power demand from many electric vehicles charged simultaneously in the evening will amplify existing peak loads, potentially overstripping the grid's current capacity to meet demand. Boom. Boom. Source of this is the Daily Wire. That's how it is, folks. That's how it is. This has been Go Right with Peter Boykin. Thank you for tuning in. God bless everybody. Y'all have a wonderful night.
Thanks for listening to Go Right with Peter Boykin. Please like this post, and please subscribe and follow and share this podcast to all your social media accounts, and visit GoRightNews.com for more Go Right News with Peter Boykin. If you like what you hear, help support the podcast by donating. The link to donate is on GoRightNews.com. Thank you for your support.
Check out this news story and more on GoRightNews.com and the podcast hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin.
Go right and register to vote. Your vote matters, so vote. Go right and vote. Hashtag Go Right. Go right. Do right. Be right. Go right. Do right. Be right. Lead right. Think right. Vote right. Vote right. Think right. Lead right. Hashtag Go Right. It's time to join the Go Right movement. It is time to hashtag Go Right for America. Join us at GoRight.us and GoRightNews.com. It is time for the Great American Revival, and it is time to hashtag Go Right for America.
Thanks again, everybody, for listening to this, and please share it everywhere. Again, this has been hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin, a part of GoRightNews.com.